Would you ever guess this is a European city? Probably not, and you'd be right. Just a few years ago, it looked completely different. But today, this transformation is happening all across Europe. Cities that once felt unmistakably European no longer do. You no longer need to travel to Baghdad, Damascus, or Cairo to feel the atmosphere of the Middle East. Just step into Paris, Berlin, or any other big European city, and what you'll see will shock you. Arabic signs everywhere, women completely veiled from head to toe. Mosques blasting the call to prayer over neighborhoods once ruled by cathedrals. Halal markets on every corner and native Europeans. Now the silent minority. This isn't immigration, this isn't multiculturalism. This is something far more radical. This is cultural replacement. So in today's video, we are going to show you 10 European cities that no longer look, sound, or feel like Europe at all, because they've begun to function more like the Middle East. But before starting the video, I want to request you, we put our best efforts to create our every single video. So please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's start. Number 10. Leicester, United Kingdom. Welcome to England? Think again. In Leicester, only less than 30% of the population is now ethnically white British. And in many areas of the city, you'll struggle to find signs in English. Urdu, Arabic, and Bengali dominate local shopfronts. Halal meat markets, Islamic cultural centers, and even gender-segregated schools have become the norm. What was once a proud industrial city is now often referred to as Little Karachi by locals. The Muslim population has surged past 20%, and in some neighborhoods, 95% of women wear hijabs or abayas. Locals complain that the city council is overly sympathetic to Islamic demands, from banning alcohol near mosques to approving controversial Sharia-influenced mediation centers. This isn't just immigration, it's transformation. In some Leicester schools, over 90% of children speak a language other than English at home. Mosques now outnumber churches by a wide margin, with new Islamic centers approved faster than schools or hospitals. Public festivals like Ramadan and Eid receive more city funding than Christmas or Remembrance Day. Some parks have removed statues and British war memorials, citing cultural inclusivity. Local swimming pools now enforce women-only hours to cater to religious sensitivities. Pubs, once central to British social life, are closing down, replaced by prayer halls and halal supermarkets. Non-Muslim residents say they're scared to voice concerns, fearing backlash or accusations of racism. Entire streets are now patrolled by volunteer modesty watchers, reminding women to dress appropriately. Former residents report being pressured to sell their homes, as neighborhoods become increasingly homogeneous. And now many ask the same question. If this is Leicester today, what will England look like tomorrow? Think about it. Number 9. Malmö, Sweden. Malmö used to be a calm Scandinavian city. Now, it's one of Europe's most radical demographic experiments. Over 45% of Malmö's population is foreign-born, with the largest group being from Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Somalia. Arabic is now the second most spoken language. Entire districts like Rosengård are now Islamic majority areas, where mosques outnumber churches, and where Swedish is rarely heard. Even Swedish media has admitted that police and firefighters face attacks in these areas, with religious leaders holding more influence than elected officials. In 2024, Sweden quietly increased funding to Islamic schools and integration centers, but critics say it's simply buying silence. Meanwhile, native Swedes are leaving Malmö in record numbers. They're calling it white flight. In some Malmö schools, over 90% of students come from non-European backgrounds, with Swedish culture nearly erased from classrooms. Sharia-style conflict mediators now operate in parts of the city, resolving disputes outside Swedish law. Police rarely enter neighborhoods like Saved without heavy backup, and even then they're often pelted with stones. Reports of honor violence, forced marriages, and religious intimidation are rising, but prosecutions are rare. Christmas markets have been scaled down, while Ramadan celebrations are city-sponsored and promoted. Swedish feminists have raised alarms over gender segregation, only to be labeled Islamophobic and silenced. Public swimming pools now segregate times by gender to accommodate religious customs. Migrant gangs, often linked to Middle Eastern or North African backgrounds, now control much of the city's drug trade. Some mosques have been linked to foreign funding and radical preachers, but authorities remain silent. For many Swedes, Malmö no longer feels like Sweden. It feels like a foreign state inside their own borders. Number 8. Brussels, Belgium. Brussels isn't just the capital of Belgium. It's the de facto capital of the European Union. But did you know that in 2025, over 30% of the city's population is Muslim? And in districts like Molenbeek, that number skyrockets to over 80%. This district has become infamous worldwide, once dubbed Europe's jihadi capital by international media. Young men gather in streets with Palestinian flags and Quranic slogans, and burqas are a common sight despite being technically banned. Even Belgian law enforcement officials have warned, we no longer have control in certain areas. Molenbeek is not just symbolic. It's a warning. A city that should be representing European unity has become a city that struggles to represent Europe at all. It was from Molenbeek that the radicals behind the 2015 Paris attacks planned and launched their assault, right under the nose of EU headquarters. Today, Belgian security services list the area as a top-tier radicalization zone, where surveillance is constant, but arrests are rare. Some schools have stopped celebrating Christmas entirely after complaints from religious groups. Calls to prayer are now a regular soundscape in once quiet neighborhoods. Cafes that once served Belgian beer and waffles now serve halal-only menus with strict gender seating. Christian symbols are vanishing from public buildings, replaced by neutral zones to avoid offense. And with fertility rates among Muslim families nearly double the national average, many fear Brussels is just the beginning. Number 7. Rotterdam, Netherlands. Rotterdam used to be known as a bustling port city, modern, efficient, Dutch to the core. But by 2025, over 55% of the population under 18 is of non-Western origin. And in certain neighborhoods, Arabic is more commonly spoken than Dutch. The Islamic presence is powerful, mosques are packed, Islamic primary schools are booming, and Sharia advice centers offer unofficial legal support to Muslim residents. In 2024, the city made headlines after approving a Muslim-only housing complex, sparking a national debate. Critics say it's a form of religious apartheid. Supporters call it cultural sensitivity. But one thing is clear, Rotterdam is becoming something new, something unrecognizable. This is the same Rotterdam that once symbolized Dutch resistance and post-war reconstruction, now being redefined by parallel societies. Entire blocks and neighborhoods are now dominated by halal butchers, Islamic bookstores, and Middle Eastern cafes. Public swimming pools have implemented strict gender separation schedules, not by national law, but by local religious demand. Youth crime is rising, with reports linking it to organized street gangs from Moroccan, Turkish, and Somali backgrounds. Police officers have confessed anonymously that they avoid confrontation in Islamic majority zones, fearing riots or political backlash. City-funded programs have removed Christian holidays from public school calendars to reflect diversity. Public festivals once celebrating Dutch heritage have been replaced by multicultural fairs, where the Dutch language is rarely heard. Even the iconic Erasmus Bridge, once a symbol of connection, now separates what many call two different Rotterdams. The Rotterdam Port Authority has reported communication issues because many new workers don't speak Dutch fluently, and while native Dutch families quietly relocate, government officials call it progressive urban transformation. Police data in 2025 revealed a 40% surge in religiously motivated street violence, most incidents occurring in Muslim-majority districts. Some city schools now require female teachers to dress modestly to avoid cultural conflict. There are growing calls to allow prayer breaks during work hours, not optional but mandatory in certain employers. And in local politics, candidates now campaign not on Dutch values, but on religious accommodation and ethnic representation. Number 6. Birmingham, United Kingdom. Birmingham is now home to one of the largest Muslim populations in Europe. Estimates suggest that Muslims make up 29% of the city's population, but that's just the average. In neighborhoods like Sparkhill and Alum Rock, that number soars above 90%. Women in niqabs are everywhere. Islamic schools dominate the education scene, and calls to prayer echo through the streets 5 times a day. In 2023, an undercover report revealed that some local schools were subtly pushing Salafi ideology, with students taught to reject British values in favor of Islamic principles. Even the BBC reported that some Birmingham mosques receive funding from overseas, including the Gulf states. This is not London's little brother anymore. It's Britain's first fully Islamic majority metropolis in the making. In 2025, over 130 mosques operate within Birmingham's city limits, compared to just a handful of active churches in the same districts. A 2024 City Council report quietly acknowledged that integration has failed in several areas, but the language was softened to avoid backlash. Many schools have banned music education and mixed-gender activities, citing religious sensitivities. Public swimming pools in several wards now follow gender-segregated hours permanently. Crime data shows a sharp rise in honor-based violence and forced marriage cases, but prosecution remains rare due to cultural complexity. Christian festivals like Easter and Christmas have been downplayed in public spaces, while Eid celebrations receive full city sponsorship. Local shops refuse to sell alcohol or pork, even to non-Muslims, turning entire districts into de facto dry zones. British women report being harassed for dressing immodestly while walking through Islamic-majority neighborhoods. Public buses in some areas have quietly removed music or banned advertisements deemed offensive to religious groups. Number 5. Marseille, France. Marseille doesn't just feel like North Africa. It practically is. Roughly 40% of the city's population is Muslim, with Algerians, Moroccans, and Tunisians dominating many districts. The port of Marseille is flooded with North African trade goods. Street markets mirror those in Casablanca or Algiers. And mosques? Everywhere. Loud, massive, and politically influential. In 2024, a French Senate report admitted that Marseille is one of several cities at risk of communal breakdown. The French Republic is slowly fading in the south. Local police have described entire zones as lost territories, where state authority is symbolic at best. Islamic religious leaders are often consulted more than elected officials on local matters. Public schools are seeing record drops in French student enrollment, with parents fleeing to private institutions. And Marseille's once proud French identity? Many say it's already gone, replaced by something entirely foreign. Burqas, once rare in France, are now common across entire districts, with women avoiding eye contact and speaking only Arabic. Halal-only zones have emerged where pork is banned entirely from shops and public menus. Christian churches sit abandoned, graffitied, or converted, while Friday prayers overflow onto the streets. And as native French families escape to the countryside, many wonder if Marseille is still part of France, or something else entirely. Number 4. Cologne, Germany. Cologne is famous for its cathedral, but just steps away, a new skyline has emerged, dotted with Islamic centers, Turkish mosques, and Arab schools. Over 20% of the population is Muslim, with the majority coming from Turkey and the Middle East. During Ramadan, public squares are transformed into mass iftar gatherings, and some schools now allow Islamic holidays to replace Christian ones. In 2024, the City Council approved the controversial Adhan project, allowing mosques to broadcast the call to prayer publicly across neighborhoods. Some locals applauded it, others called it the death of German identity. Cologne is changing fast. In some districts, Arabic and Turkish are now more common than German in shops and public spaces. One church attendance has plummeted, while mosque construction is at an all-time high. Over 35 mosques are now active within the city. Public swimming pools have introduced gender-segregated hours after pressure from Islamic groups. Some schools have quietly dropped lessons on LGBTQ rights to avoid clashing with conservative religious families. And as the native German population declines, many fear Cologne is becoming the blueprint for Germany's cultural erasure. Police have reported growing tensions between ethnic German youths and organized migrant gangs operating across city districts. The Cologne Christmas market, once a symbol of German tradition, now faces strict regulations to avoid offending cultural sensitivities. Halal-only food zones are expanding, while pork products quietly disappear from school cafeterias and public menus. And amid all of this, many locals admit the city feels less like Germany and more like a place they no longer recognize. Number 3, Vienna, Austria. Vienna has always stood at the crossroads of East and West. But today it leans much closer to the East. In 2025, Muslims make up over 18% of Vienna's population, and in younger demographics, it's nearly 30%. Entire districts have become Islamic strongholds, where headscarves and Arabic greetings dominate daily life. Islamic schools now outnumber Catholic ones in parts of the city, and in 2024, several public libraries in Vienna began removing books deemed offensive to Muslim values. Some Austrians call it tolerance. Others say it's surrender. By mid-2025, 3 new mega-mosques are under construction, funded by foreign donors from the Gulf, sparking fears of rising foreign influence. Police data shows a 35% rise in religiously motivated youth clashes in Vienna's immigrant-heavy neighborhoods since 2023. In some schools, Arabic has replaced German as the dominant spoken language in classrooms, even among second-generation students. Local women's rights groups warn that gender segregation is subtly returning, with some Islamic centers promoting female-only spaces in public events. And the Austrian government? Mostly silent, afraid of being labeled Islamophobic. Number 2, Berlin, Germany. Berlin's Kreuzberg district is no longer hipster. It's now Turkey town. 1 in every 3 Berliners under 30 now comes from a Muslim background. Hookah lounges, Arabic street food stalls, Turkish supermarkets, Quran study centers, they're not the exception, they're the rule. In 2023, Germany officially stopped collecting religion-based census data. Critics say it's to hide the real numbers. But if you walk the streets of Berlin, you won't need statistics, you'll feel it. And you'll wonder, is this still Germany? In 2024 alone, over 65 Islamic organizations opened new cultural centers across Berlin, many with ties to foreign political groups. Police now classify multiple districts as high-risk zones due to rising ethnic gang violence tied to migrant networks. Local German families are relocating to outer suburbs, triggering what sociologists now call a soft ethnic partition. Christmas markets in inner Berlin have seen tightened security or outright cancellations over fear of attacks. And in some schools, German girls report being pressured to dress more modestly to avoid conflict with dominant peer groups. Number 1, Paris, France. It has become so common with Paris that it always tops the list of every negative video. The crown jewel of Europe is cracking. Paris has become the symbol of cultural surrender. Nearly 20% of the total population is Muslim, but in suburbs like Saint-Denis, that number reaches over 60%. This suburb is infamous, police avoid it, firefighters need escorts, and radical preachers have more power than elected officials. Arabic is spoken everywhere. Mosques are overflowing. And in 2025, multiple public schools in the area stopped celebrating Christmas altogether, replacing it with winter festivals to avoid offending Muslim students. The Eiffel Tower may still stand tall, but beneath it, a new France is rising. In 2025, over 700 new Islamic associations were registered across the Greater Paris region, many receiving foreign funding from Turkey, Qatar, and Algeria. French intelligence has flagged dozens of radical preachers operating freely in Paris suburbs under the cover of religious freedom. The French government now deploys counter-extremism officers to monitor public schools in Saint-Denis, where students increasingly reject secular values. In certain areas, Arabic and Wolof are more common than French on the streets. And for the first time in French history, more than half of all newborns in Paris hospitals come from immigrant backgrounds, sparking warnings of a coming cultural tipping point. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.